Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Good morning from India and good evening to all of you according to US time. It's a pleasure for me to be with you all today and share some of the insights that we have on Bhagavad-Gita as well as the Mahabharata. We all know that Bhagavad-Gita is really most sacred, and not only that, but together with the wisdom that is within Gita, I strongly believe and have realized that the teachings are for the modern times. Because where everyone is going through such a journey which is full of struggle, which is full of some or the other confusions that we have in our life. And so Bhagavad-Gita's wisdom is applicable at every step in our life. Bhagavad-Gita is said to be the nectar. There are so many secrets that are stored in it. The only thing is, if people are able to understand those secrets and really apply in their life, then we find that there is a completely different perspective that they receive in their lives. Bhagavad-Gita is said to be the highest amongst all the scriptures in the world. Why? Because it has these words, God speaks. And therefore, in the whole of Bhagavad-Gita, there is nowhere this word Hindu written. But many a times, in many places, it has been written that this knowledge, this wisdom is for the entire humanity. And so this is such a sacred book for the entire humanity. And the only book in the world where God speaks directly in the first person. So it is incomparable. As it is said, in terms of pure spiritual knowledge, the Bhagavad-Gita is incomparable. Its intrinsic beauty is that its knowledge applies to all the human beings and does not postulate any sectarian ideology or secular view. It is approachable from the sanctified realms of all religions and is glorified as the epitome of all spiritual teachings by the Supreme Being Himself. So we can say that, yes, it is applicable in the present time because everybody is experiencing some or the other struggle in their lives. So, beautifully in Bhagavad-Gita, when we say that it is applicable for everyone, I'd just like to take you in a history of Bhagavad-Gita. And according to Bhagavad-Gita, it is said that who wrote Bhagavad-Gita? For that it is seen that Ved-Vyas, who was a rishi, who was a great tapasvi, and he was able to go through time And he was able to see the present time, I would say. And that is why, on the basis of that, he wants to write. But it is said that when he was in that transcendental stage, it was impossible for him to write. So therefore, he asked Ganesh. Ganesh is said to be the most intelligent one. So he invokes Ganesha to write this wisdom for him. And being in that transcendental stage, whatever he was going to narrate, he asked Ganesha, can you become my writer? And this is very clearly mentioned in the shloka, in the beginning of Bhagavad-Gita, that this is the imagination of my own mind. So as it is said, when he invokes Ganesha, especially in Mahabharata, first chapter, 77th shloka, where he says to Ganesha, "O Ganesha, you become my writer." To write this epic of Mahabharata, the whole of Mahabharata, the knowledge that I'm relating to you is the expansion of the imagination of my mind. So very clearly he was able to go through in his transcendental stage through time. And when he was able to see the present time, on the basis of that imagination, which is conceived in a very elevated consciousness, that is in the samadhi stage. And therefore, when he invokes, it is very clearly stated that when it is the imagination of my own mind, means nothing like Mahabharata. Whatever was said happened in that way. So it is a deep, mysterious thing, and the mysteries have to be unveiled through the knowledge or through the wisdom that is given in it, so that we can relate it in the present times. Now, if we see Bhagavad-Gita, in one scripture, there is salvation for all different levels. How? I would say that Bhagavad-Gita has the salvation for the state of a human mind, the mind which is constantly in a confused stage, how we can get the wisdom and apply it for the salvation of our minds. Similarly, Mahabharata is said to be family quarrel. So today in the world we see family quarrels. So how Bhagavad-Gita's wisdom is applicable in the affairs of the family, and how we can get salvation in that. At the same time, it is a salvation for the state of affairs in the society at large. Because in the society we find such characters which are mentioned in Mahabharata, like Duryodhana, like Shakuni. All these characters are present in the present day society, who are trying to create problems, who are trying to get everything, whatever they can in their lives. So there is salvation for the state of affairs in the society at large also. At the same time, Dhritarashtra, if we literally translate this word, Dhritarashtra, that when Rashtra means a state. So in the state, the affairs at the level of a nation, totally in the nations, what is going on today, in the entire world, in all the nations, what is happening? People are trying to deceive one another. Some people are wanting power in their hands. And because of grabbing that power, they can do anything. And this is what is shown in Mahabharata. So it is the present time situation of a nation as well. And there is a salvation for the state of the affairs of the entire world. Every nation is going through problems. There is not a single nation in the world which can say, yes, we have so much of peace and happiness in our nation. All our citizens are so happy. No problems in our whole of the country. So we can see that from a micro level to the macro level, from a person's individual's mind to the entire world affairs, there is problems at all levels. And Bhagavad-Gita gives the wisdom for problems at all levels. Therefore, it reminds me that Mahatma Gandhi, whenever he was going through turmoil relating to the affairs of India during the independence time, and he was so confused, he would just pick up Bhagavad-Gita, open any page, and start reading Bhagavad-Gita, and he used to get his solutions. And that is why he would say, I got all my solutions from Bhagavad-Gita. Not only that, but great scientists like I much, because he also used to refer Bhagavad-Gita. All the scholars of the world, they feel that without studying Bhagavad-Gita, their knowledge, their wisdom is not complete. It's incomplete. Because it has solutions for all types of problems which people are going through in this present time. And so, if we find that when we say it is the solution for the individual, in everyone's life, there comes a time of ultimate challenge. When life seems unfair and every resources is over, faith, values, patience, compassion, persistence is pushed to the limits. Some people overcome the challenges in life and lead their lives in a worthwhile way, while others destroy themselves in the conflicts of life. That's why I said, where every human being is going through struggle, so Bhagavad-Gita's wisdom is for them. Whoever is experiencing challenges in their life. And sometimes some people feel every day there is a new challenge. How to overcome this challenge? How to face this challenge? How to be victorious in these challenges? And very beautifully, I read somewhere that challenges are there for everyone. There is no one who can say, yes, I have no challenges in my life. Challenges are there for everyone in life, but for some, these challenges opens the doors to new opportunities. And they move forward in life. They become victorious. But for some, these challenges close the doors, give great setbacks, and people always have complaints in life. Why? Beautifully it was written, during this time of challenges, those people who are able to take right decisions in life, for them, new doors to opportunities are opened, new doors to new possibilities are opened up, and they move forward in life. But those people who take wrong decisions during the time of challenges, because it is a choice that everyone has to make during the time of challenges. So whenever there is a wrong choice made, the doors close and there is a setback that they experience, and then they regret in life. Only if I would have seen this possibility, only if I would have taken this decision, only if I would have realized this possibility, or only if I was not in a confused stage at that moment, I would have thought in the right manner. So we all see why people are not able to face those challenges, overcome them, and be successful. It is only because they make wrong choices. They are not able to realize at that moment because they are in constant stress. And when there is confusion and stress, they are not able to take the right decisions in life. So Bhagavad-Gita again and again asks us to calm down, have patience, realize through meditation, when we are able to calm down ourselves, then only we are able to take right decisions. And we are able to use our inner resources in the right possible manner and move forward in life. Similarly, when we said that this is a salvation for the state of affairs in the life of a family. In families, today what is happening? Parents whose third eye of wisdom is closed due to the attachment in the children. People are so much attached to their children, so sometimes they are not able to realize what they are doing. Children get spoiled, and then they find that there is problems for them. They are not willing to spare even an inch of land, which is compared to a pinpoint. It is said between the Pandavas and Kauravas, they were members of one family. And being in one family, the Pandavas asked the Kauravas, can we have only 5 villages? Can we have only that much of land where we can live peacefully? And Duryodhana said, impossible. I cannot give you an inch of land, which is compared to a pinpoint of a needle also, in place of 5 villages. So those who are religious, wise, they sometimes suffer in life, especially in families also. There are other brothers and sisters who are so greedy maybe, or who do not want them to come forward. So family members only try to suppress those who are wise, those who are religious. In other words, they are not able to accept them. There is no acceptance in the heart. They do not even have that much of acceptance. And this is what we are realizing in today's world, that there is no acceptance. Not even in the society, not even in the family. Or give them happiness. They are so egoistic that they will never give up feelings of distaste, anger, revenge, even if their entire community shall be destroyed. This is what is happening in today's world, in the families, amongst brothers. If we see in the court, where there is law, many cases that the lawyers are trying to settle is between families only. Husband, wife, brothers, father and son. Because not able to accept in their hearts and not even give them what they deserve, what they are entitled to. That is the level of greed that people have in their lives. So many of the problems is because there is no openness in the hearts, no acceptance in the hearts of the people. So there are a lot of problems going at the family level also. Similarly, if we see at the level of the society, then we find that there are many characters like Shakuni. I don't know whether you have heard about Shakuni. Shakuni is said to be the uncle of the Kauravas, who was full of deceit in his mind. And he played the game of dice and made the Pandavas lose everything. Similarly, in today's world, at the nook and corner of every road, we find there is one Shakuni sitting who's trying to create problems between families. So many such characters who just bring out something of their own mind and try to pollute the minds of others. And this is how create distance in family members also. So polluting the people's minds is known as Shakuni. So in our society, there are characters like Shakuni, and the society where people are blind towards sinful and unrighteous actions. Those who are not able to differentiate between what is dharma and adharma, means what is true religion and what is irreligiousness, being dutiful and undutiful, good and bad, and are devoid or deprived of the eyes to discriminate between justice and injustice. That is why there are so many problems in the society also. So it gives salvation at the level of the society also. And not only that, as I said, in the nation, what people are going through in the national characters, we find that there are such nations like Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra was the father of the Kauravas, who was blind. And here, blind does not mean blind with the physical eyes. Blind in ego. When people are egoistic, they become blind. They are not able to realize what is true, what is false. Blind in trying to accumulate power. They want to have all the power. They want to have the seat of everything. And in order to get that seat, they can do anything. They can go to any level of injustice. Blind in attachment. He was deeply attached to his own children that he did constant injustice to the Pandavas. And this is why he ignored Pandavas for everything. Blind in what is true, what is false. He was not able to see what the truth is. So Dhritarashtra, Rashtra means nation. Literally, translation of Rashtra is nation. So when this nation has been captured by the feelings of deceit, Dhritarashtra, Dhrit means deceit. So when the nation has been captured by the feelings of deceit, where rights are governed ruthlessly, thus the picture of the entire nation is dreadful, where the vision towards truth is blind, and there is destruction of mental power and soul power. So this is where, even at the national level, we get solutions. That is why we find when Narendra Modi goes out in the world, the only gift he feels like giving to the heads of the nation is Bhagavad-Gita. He always presents Bhagavad-Gita to all the heads of the nation, that you can find your solutions of problems, to the problems from this book. And he also refers to Bhagavad-Gita regularly, reads Bhagavad-Gita. So he receives some solutions from that Bhagavad-Gita. So that's why it is said it has the wisdom at all levels. Not only that, but for the entire world, we get solutions for the entire world also. And how do we get solutions at the entire world level? How do we get solutions at the entire world level? We'll just see that, because today in the world we find that people are going through a lot of chaos. And when they are going through this chaos, they cannot understand what is happening. And so they need to practice yoga. Yoga is the solution. But in today's world, people have gone at the physical level only, not realizing that yoga is a connection where I need to get the power from the soul, from the Supreme Soul. So today the whole world is facing a grave problem. So God himself has to descend, incarnate on earth and give a new turn to the history. He has come to remind us of those lessons which are forgotten, so that our minds can once again become more free from the vices, attachments to human beings, and become the embodiment of yoga, or connection of oneself with the Supreme. So if we see Bhagavad-Gita, each chapter is yoga. From Vishad Yoga to the final yoga of completeness, conquering attachment. All chapters are mentioned yoga. And nowhere in Bhagavad-Gita did God teach Arjuna to do any physical exercises. Nowhere did he teach him physical exercises. But constant having yoga with the Supreme, so that whenever he gets confused, if I connect my mind to that Supreme, I immediately am able to clear the confusion and foresee what is going to come, what is going to happen. And this is the need of the hour, where every individual, the confusion is like the fog when we go into a mountain and there is a lot of clouds coming and going. There is so much of confusion and people are not able to see the way. Sometimes they get deceived. And this is what is happening in everybody's life. There are so many clouds of confusion in their life that we are not able to foresee the time and not realize what is the call of the time, what is the need of the hour, and how we can overcome all those confusions. It is only when I connect my mind with the Supreme that I'm able to receive that power to clear all that confusion and see beforehand, foresee time as well. So if we just go into Mahabharata and see that when we say Kurukshetra is the place where all this war took place. Now, Kuru, this word means to do, or that which has to be done. And Kshetra means the field of action. where each and every individual is in practical life, that is the field of their action. And in the field of action, what do I have to do? So in Kurukshetra, the whole family, Pandavas and Kauravas, are termed as Kuru. They were from the family of Kuru, which believed in doing practical actions. And in that, Pandavas are said to be the ones who have loveful intellect with God. So they perform pure actions. And Kaurav means those whose intellects are not willing to connect with God. They have some or the other excuses. Those who perform impure, irreligious, and sinful actions. And it is because of their sinful attitudes or the impure attitudes they have, they are not willing to connect with the Supreme. And there is a beautiful story. You can see that here it is shown in the Mahabharata, it is shown that from the Pandavas, Arjuna, and from the Kauravas, Duryodhana, both goes to God. Now here, Sri Krishna is shown, but let me just tell you the meaning of Krishna. Actually, Krishna means the most attractive one, the most beautiful one. And in today's world, amongst the deities, there are only two who are so beautiful. One is Lord Krishna, and the other is God Krishna. Shiv Baba is also termed to be the most beautiful one. And this is mentioned in the scriptures only, that Krishna is also known as Krishna, the most beautiful. And Shiva is also mentioned as the most beautiful. That is why there is a song which says, Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Satyam means the one which is truth. Shivam means the one which is benefactor. And Sundaram, the most beautiful one. So these two characters in the scriptures are mentioned to be the most beautiful ones. Now it is difficult for people to comprehend. How can incorporeal be the most beautiful one? So they have taken Lord Krishna to be the most beautiful one. And this is why the mistake has been occurred in Bhagavad-Gita, that instead of the incorporeal one, they have taken the corporeal human being, because both are termed with this word Krishna. Krishna means the most beautiful one. So the most beautiful is Lord Krishna and most beautiful is God Krishna. God Krishna is incorporeal. Lord Krishna is the corporeal. Lord means who was owning something, owning some land, just as we have landlords. So similarly, Lord Krishna is the one who was the owner of the heavenly world. So people comprehended the corporeal one instead of the incorporeal one. And that is why in Mahabharata, how can it be depicted that both of them go to God for their own solutions? And at that time, beautifully it is depicted that Duryodhana finds his place near the head side. So he sits there. And Arjuna is shown as standing at the feet side. Now this shows the humbleness that Arjuna had. In order to get the solutions or in order to connect yourself with the Supreme, we need to have humbleness. If we are in the body consciousness, if we are in the ego consciousness, we can never connect ourselves with the Supreme Being. So sitting by the head side means being egoistic. Just as Ravan is shown with many heads, that shows the egoistic form. Similarly, sitting by the head side shows that how much egoistic he was. And Arjuna is shown to be standing at the feet, folded hands. So it is depicted that when they both ask for help, then Krishna says, I have two things with me. What do you want? One thing, I have the entire army, which is of Akshonis. And the second thing, myself. Whom do you like to have? So Duryodhana was very happy with the entire army. So he went for the army. And Arjuna, who had so much of faith that where God is, victory is there. So because he had a loveful intellect with God, he chooses, he makes the right choice that I want you. So he makes a wrong choice, Duryodhana, he goes for the entire army. So in order to make a right choice in life, always be by the side of God so that all your confusions are over and you are able to foresee. He went into confusion because he took the entire army and he was not clear. So he thought it was an illusion. So many a times people make wrong decisions or wrong choices because of illusion. And then finally they find that there is no victory in what they were thinking. So this was the decision that was made by the Pandavas and the Kauravas, wrong decision. Now if we see that there are two types of nature in every human being in today's world. Every human being has some good qualities and some weaknesses. Both is there. So a divine nature and a devilish nature. Within the divine nature or the sphere of religion, the ones with spiritual emotions, they are known as the Pandavas. And so the 5 Pandavas, their names have the qualities. Like Yudhishthir means the one who is stable intellect in the midst of war. So those people in today's world who are having that inner stability, although there is a lot of confusion going in their life, there is a lot of chaos going in their life, but still they are stable. They are termed as Yudhishthir. Yuddha means war. Sthira means stable. So stability amongst the confusions that people are going through in their life, they are said to be Yudhishthir. And how many people are there in today's world with a stable intellect? 1%. So we find 100 Kauravas and 5 Pandavas. Now this is the percentage in the world today. Any percentage is always taken out on 100. So 100 Kauravas, and amongst 100 there was only 5% in today's world who are with the Pandav qualities. So if we take the entire world, which is 100%, only 5% of those people are having loveful intellect with God. And amongst the 5%, only 1% people in the entire world are with stable mind, who have inner stability. Only 1%. Second number was Bhim, and Bhim is said to be one who is full with soul power, one who is equipped with strong willpower. He used to decide and do it. Do not wait for anything. So one with strong willpower in today's world, how many people? Only 1%. So only 1% are people with strong willpower. Otherwise, we find many people landing up in depression. Why? No soul power, no willpower. So only 1% in the entire world people have willpower, strong willpower. The third one was said to be the Arjuna, one who is always ready to learn and grasp. Arjun, literal meanings means to learn every moment. And those who are open to learning, how many percent? Only 1%. Only 1% are open to learning new things, new wisdom, and whatever we see in the world. The fourth one is known as Nakul, who lives by principles. And how many are there? Only 1%. And the fifth one is said to be Sahadev. Sahadev means the one who is cooperative and has divine insight and a divine intellect. So he was cooperative. So these are the 5% Pandavas that we see in the world today. And on the other side, we find there are Kauravas. The Kauravas depict the ones who are irreligious. Dhritarashtra, as I said, means the one who is blind in ego, blind in attachment, blind in grabbing the power, blind in so many things, no understanding. So blind in the power of the kingdom, land, physical power. We find such people in the world. And Gandhari, the mother of the Kauravas, was able to see, but she kept herself blindfolded purposely. And the rest of the names of the Kauravas all begin with Du. And Du means the one who are wicked, the one who are full of deceit. Duryodhana. Duryodhana means the one who misuses or uses the wealth with wickedness, which we find in today's world. Many politicians we find they are not able to use their wealth in the right way or the resources in the right way. Dushashana means the people at the administrative level. Shashan means administration. So wherever there is administration, but administration is also done with wickedness. Similarly, Durmukh means the one who has always speaks bad words. Dushkarna means who are constantly hearing or polluting their minds by listening to all the waste. Durvimochan, those who have bad eyes, who are not able to see the goodness in people, who are not able to see the positivity in people. So their minds are full of negativities, and that is what they perceive in others, also trying to find out weaknesses in other people. So all the Kauravas' names begin with Du. So this was the imagination of Vedvyasa in his transcendental stage when he was able to see that the Kauravas and Pandavas, and because of that, their intellect was not loveful towards God. They were not able to comprehend. They were not able to accept God also in their lives because they constantly were on the negative side. So they're full of negativities. All the negative qualities. So these are the Kauravas, and Pandavas are the 5% with the positive qualities. And then we find that in today's world, why we need to compare for today's world. Today, the world is absolutely at the edge of times of another great transformation. And it is again the same state as shown in Kurukshetra. At such times of conflict and confusion, when human beings' intellect have become completely bankrupt and downtrodden due to false action, the entire humanity is in the need of the knowledge of Gita. This is such a war field for which God himself is beckoning on us. The same time, the same episode is being repeated. One needs to become an instrument to spread this spiritual awareness and become a warrior in order to fulfill the divine will. So this is why the whole episode is with the present time, compared with the present time only. Right? And as it is shown in Bhagavad-Gita, that Bhagavad-Gita was born in the situation of conflict. In the very midst of the great Kurukshetra war, now we can, if we just try to comprehend and visualize that there is a big battlefield and both the armies are there, and it is said to be how many? Akshonis. Akshoni means millions. Both the sides, such a big army. And at that time, Arjuna says, I don't want to fight. And he says to God, take my chariot in the middle. I want to see both the armies very well. And when he sees both the armies, he feels disheartened and he feels, I don't want to fight. At the time of the war, he's so depressed. And this is what happens in many people's life. Whenever a challenge comes, instead of facing that challenge, they feel depressed and they feel, I can't do it. It's impossible. I won't be able to handle this. And they try to step back. And this is where Bhagavad-Gita motivates us. The wisdom in Bhagavad-Gita motivates Arjuna. You can't step back now at this last moment, at this hour. And so both the armies are drawn up. The flight of missiles is about to begin. The conch shells have sounded. The clamor of war is tumultuous. And the hearts of the participants are torn by the conflict. It is then the Gita teachings come. So Gita is the scripture of the wisdom during the conflict times, especially. This is what Bhagavad-Gita is symbolizing, isn't it? And at that moment, to get that wisdom is very essential. Now it is said that how much army was there? It is said 18 Akshonis that is mentioned. Now during Mahabharata war, the basis of calculation was called pati. Like decimal, millimeter, or just as we have in the world. So one pati means one chariot, one elephant, 5 soldiers, and 3 horse riders. This was one pati. So now just imagine how many patis were in Akshoni, one Akshoni. So in one Akshoni, it is said to be 21,870 chariots, one pati, and one Akshoni. So how many patis in Akshoni? 21,870. So that means 21,870 chariots, 21,870 elephants, 5 soldiers, multiply 21,000 into 5, 1,100,000, 9,350, and multiply 3 horse riders with 21,000. So 65,610 horse riders. This was in one Akshoni. And how many Akshonis were during Mahabharata time? 18 Akshonis. So this figure has to be multiplied by 18. So how much do we get? 393,660 chariots, 393,660 elephants, which is most impossible, next to impossible. 1968,300 soldiers. And how many horse riders? 1180,980 horse riders. So this was in 18 Akshonis. Now, if we see that on the chariot, there was one who was riding the chariot and one warrior. So if it is doubled, the figure gets doubled. So on a chariot, there were 7,87,320 people on the chariot. 7 lakhs on the elephant also. One was the elephant rider and one was the warrior. So 7,87,320 on the elephant. 19 lakhs. So if we total this up, that is 47 lakhs, 23,920 only on the war field, only on Kurukshetra. And some years back when I went to Kurukshetra, I went to see that place where the actual war took place. And to my surprise, the place was so small. Just imagine how many elephants, how many chariots, how many horses. And the field is so small, they cannot be accommodated there. They can never be accommodated there. And not only that, but then I went to that place. There is a monument, there is a statue, which shows that there was a tree, and underneath the tree, that is the place where Gita was born, that the wisdom of Gita was given to Arjuna. Seeing that field was so small, and that place where Gita knowledge was given, the wisdom of Gita was given, which is so impractical. Now, we in the midst of a war, if two people are fighting on the road due to some or the other confusion, and another third person comes and says, let me give you some wisdom, what will happen? Is it practical? Those people who are fighting would say, please keep your wisdom with yourself. There's no need, we have our wisdom. So during the time of war, to give wisdom, was Arjuna in that mental state to receive that wisdom? And why suddenly he said, I don't want to fight? Why? And this figure which is shown, that nearly 500,000 were there present. 500,000 people on the war field. And apart from that, it is said that those people who were killed, there were people to take the bodies into the hospital to treat them, those who were wounded. So there was such staff also. And it was said that when the sun set, the war was stopped. The conch was blown and the war stopped. For the night time, they didn't fight. So they used to party at night. When all these people were partying at night, who would cook the food? So cooking food for 500,000 people. Can we imagine how many cooks there must be? How much storage capacity to store all the vegetables, to store all the grains and everything for feeding 500, and that also for 18 days this went on. 18 days to store all this, which is next to impossible. And this shows that the entire world is the field of action, which is the Kurukshetra. Everyone is going through a battle in life. And this 500,000 people, they had their families. So if we take down the population, it is the population of the entire world. So this is why the same episode is going in the present time. That is why we say it is the same episode that is being replayed. So it is said Kurukshetra is not just the plain that is in Haryana, but there is a Kurukshetra which is each one of us. It is within our psyche that the devilish and the divine powers are drawn up in array against each other. And it is within the mind that this battle has to be constantly fought. Constantly fought. So this is the Kurukshetra in the field of action. In our lives, in practical action, when we are in practical action, sometimes we are not able to make the right choice. Whether if the ego comes up, then we make the wrong choice. We are Kauros, we become Kauros, we are completely devoid. Our intellect is devoid from God. We are not able to make right choice. And sometimes on the basis of the divine qualities, we remember God, we remember Him, constantly focus our attention on Him, and we receive what is right, what is wrong, what we have to do, what we don't have to do. So, this is the Kurukshetra. And so it says that the Gita unfolds in 700 shlokas or verses, spread over 18 adhyayas, chapters. Chapter 1 as stating the problem of the human situation that we are going through. In the second chapter as stating as the central issues and approaches to resolving them. From the third chapter to the 17th chapter as elaborating these approaches, and in the 18th chapter as summing up or the conclusion or the essence of Gita. So we find that Gita is a dialogue between you and God. Constantly, Arjuna is asking questions to God in between, and God is answering. So we have made this world very complex and polluted. We can make this world a better place to live in, provided each person instills this faith in oneself and is clear as to where does he want to go. How will he reach the goal that he has created for himself? So if we see the first chapter, lamenting the consequences of war. Kurukshetra is a scene of a war field, and there are two main characters, God himself and Arjuna. The witness to them are Akshoni, that is millions soldiers and their commanders. As soon as the names of both the armies are proclaimed, Arjuna feels deeply disheartened. This fear in him is because of the thought of losing all his near and dear ones, and even the sin of committing such a grave act of war. Now what happens? If we relate this in the present time, why was Arjuna lamenting? Why was he confused? Why he was depressed? He did not want to fight. It is said because he was with the thought of losing his near and dear ones. Many a times people explain to us in Gita or Mahabharata that when he saw his guru, when he saw Bhishma Pitamana, his elderly father, and when he saw all the gurus and all the near and dear ones, he felt, no, I don't want to fight. That was not the cause. That was not the problem. But when he saw one side, and then he saw the other side of his army, and in that he saw his sons. All his sons were also standing. His brothers, all of them were standing. And any father who is deeply attached to their children, and when they think of losing their children, that is when the attachment comes up. That is when he feels, I don't want to commit this act of sin. Actually, he had no concern about the Kauravas. He was not concerned about them, but he was concerned about his own family members. Because in the story it is said that when Draupadi, the wife, asked Krishna, what is the result of this war? And Krishna says, don't worry, your 5 Pandavas will be safe. Arjuna was also present at that time. And then the wife asked, what about my children? That is when God said, I cannot take up the responsibility of your children. So this thing, it is said, Arjuna knew that my children will also be sacrificed in this war. And no father would ever like their children to be sacrificed for no reason. So that is why Arjuna got depressed and he said, if I'm going to lose all my children, I don't want anything from the Kauravas. I don't want any kingdom. I would better stay with my family happily in the jungles also, no problem. I don't want this. Why should I kill everyone? Why should I be an instrument? I don't want the heavenly kingdom. He refuses that attachment. So Arjuna was also the victim of attachment towards his children. And we find in today's world, everybody is deeply attached to their children. If somebody's children is kidnapped and the person is of deep principles, would never compromise with his principles. But if it comes to his own children and his children are kidnapped, would he still stay on principles or would he give up those principles at that time? This is what is trying to be depicted, that in today's world, everyone has deep attachment to their own children, isn't it? So here Arjuna is symbolic for the consciousness of those people who are trapped within their own desires and relationships. When there is a constant war going on between one's virtues and vices within one's mind, then the mind gets exhausted and is not ready to fight with the devilish powers any further. And the intellect is not able to judge except to give up to devilish powers. So this is a person who is deeply connected with the weaknesses. What happens? Sometimes we know we are doing wrong, but still we go for it. Why? Because that weakness is forcing us to do that. Today we all have the wisdom, the spiritual wisdom, but still when we are not able to conquer our own weaknesses, what happens? We give up. And we feel weak at that moment. That is why it is called as weakness. So when a person is going through long sickness, sometimes they try to give up hope. When there are constant family conflicts going on, they give up. When there are failures after failures that they go through, there is a lot of tension in the life. That is when we find people give up and take the bad habits as a support. And they feel as if there is nothing left in the world now for which we have to go for or make efforts for. So they easily give up and again become a victim of their own bad habits. And then in the second chapter, Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga means spiritual wisdom about the soul and its application in practical action. And in the essence of the second chapter, from first verse to the 10th verse, the dialogue between God and Arjuna in context of the coward attitude of Arjuna From the 11th verse to the 30th verse, the topic of Sankhya Yoga, that the body being the costume of the soul and the soul being immortal. From the 31st verse to the 38th verse, the eternal transcendental nature of the soul. From the 39th verse to the 53rd verse, the art of yoga for righteous karma. And 54th verse to 72nd verse, the attributes and the praise of the man with a stable intellect. So this is the essence of the whole chapter. So we can see that the first lesson that is given in Bhagavad-Gita in order to handle our inner conflicts is the lesson of the soul and realizing the transcendental nature of the soul. That is the lesson that is given by God also to all of us in this present time. And for that, we need to surrender our ego first. And that is why Arjuna also, the first chapter is constantly arguing, I don't want to fight, and the reasons, the excuses that are given, why I don't want to fight. And God is the biggest listener because he is the great leader. A leader's first quality is the best listener. He does not say a word. The whole chapter where Arjuna is giving excuses and God does not say a word. He listens, constantly listens to him. Even in the second chapter, 10 verses, he is still speaking. And then finally, when he is surrendering himself. So God listens to all our prayers, all these births, so many years. And then those souls who surrender their ego, that is when he starts giving the wisdom. Because if we are constantly speaking, there is no openness to receive. And that is when God never gives. So he says, do not come in copper age and do not come in iron age also. But at the end of iron age, when people are so helpless and they give up, they surrender, they become a disciple, they bow down. That is when he starts giving wisdom, because that is the real time when we are able to absorb that wisdom. So Arjuna accepts the position as a disciple of the Supreme and taking complete of him, request God to instruct him in how to dispel his lamentation and grief. This chapter is often deemed as the summary of entire Bhagavad-Gita. Here many subjects are explained because it's a big chapter of 72 verses. So here many subjects are explained such as Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, and the soul. Predominance has been given to the immortal nature of the soul existing within all the living entities. So surrender is the first thing that is needed. Means the intellect is not able to judge in today's world. When the intellect is not able to judge and the mind tired, because thus the individual is drawn to depression because there is no power within to direct or rule the mind in the right direction. A ray of hope only possible. A ray of hope is only possible when Supreme Intellectual Personality guides you. When the Supreme descends and answers the questions which are distracting the mind of an individual, the truth. The truth is that you are a soul and not this body. So that is the first wisdom that he starts giving to Arjuna. And then, to him, this body is a field to perform actions. Kurukshetra. This body is the field to perform actions. Whatever seed in form of good or bad action is sown. grows into a form of a particular sanskara. That becomes our personality trait. The expansion of this field are our senses. Human being is dependent on the three gunas, that is sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. Sattvic means the purest, tamasic means the impurest, and rajo means the in-between. So from the pure to impure, there is semi-purity that is known as rajo, to perform actions. Is not able to stay without action even for a moment. A soul is not able to stay without action even for a moment. This is why this field is called as karma kshetra or kurukshetra. Kshetra means the field and karma kshetra means the field of action. Kuru means to do, where we need to perform our actions. So that is the first wisdom that is imparted, that you are a soul and you have to perform actions. And whatever you're going to choose, whatever choice you make, good or bad, accordingly, your personality is going to be created. And we are dependent on these three types of natures, from sattvic to, or from pure to impure, and we can't stay without actions. And beautifully he explains here in this verse that in the body, a human being has to pass through these three stages: childhood, youth, and old age. Similarly, to attain a new body is also a stage of transformation. Within that process, the soul is not destroyed. In a very simple language, God tells Arjuna, why are you having this attachment? Look, you are constantly transforming in life. When a person is a child, is attached to the parents. As he grows up and goes into his youth stage, is attached to his friends. Constantly transforming. Attachment is also transforming. And then as it goes old age, his attachment is to his grandchildren maybe, or children. More than the children, also to the grandchildren. So the attachment is also transforming. Similarly, when a person leaves one body and enters another one, that is also a stage of transformation. So during life, when we are transforming in stages also, this is also a stage of transformation, leaving one body and taking up another body. The soul is not destroyed in this process. So why do you have to lament? Very easily, God is trying to show Arjuna how to conquer attachment. How to conquer attachment. Because that is the root cause of all our sufferings. If we are attached to somebody and we are not able to give up, if we are not able to transform, what happens? It gives us a lot of pain. Like when children are deeply attached to the parents, but when they are youth, they have attachment to their friends. And still if the parents are trying to hold on to them, no, why do you have to go away? Why do you have to go to your friends? You stay with me at home. What happens? There is pain. Because the child may just ignore the parents and go to the friends where he's attached to. He can't stay at that moment there. So in simple words, he's trying to teach Arjuna how you have been doing this in your life. So there is no need to be attached with this body also. Why are you attached with this body also? Very simple way he has discussed with him. So this is a natural process. This is what God is trying to say to Arjuna. It's a natural process. And he's trying to tell us Arjunas, we are all Arjunas at this time. because we are wanting to learn and grasp in our life. So if I really want to learn, if I really want to absorb that wisdom, I have to realize that this is a process. And constantly we have been changing relationships where we are attached. The same thing with this body also, we need to understand that if we are deeply attached, then it is very difficult to go above the pains that this body is going through. Are in soul conscious stage, we can easily detach ourselves. Beautifully, he has explained. I like so much this verse, especially when it is mentioned. And then he shows the laws and commandments of the wars. Now just imagine in the second chapter, he's showing the laws. And what are the laws to that has to be understood? And he says, it depends on the capacity of each Bharatvasis. Here he addresses Arjuna as Bharat. That he is trying to give this wisdom to each and every Bharatvasi to tolerate happiness, sorrow. Now, when he is asking him to tolerate in the war field, if he starts tolerating in the practical war field, what will happen? He won't be able to fight. But he is giving him this wisdom of tolerance. So the first power that we need in our life is to tolerate. If I can't tolerate happiness, sorrow, cold, heat, praise, defamation, the vices in the awareness and the attitudes makes one victorious in such a way as water would take its form when placed in a mold. This is a conflict between the field and the field man, in which the devilish traits have to be completely demolished and allow the consciousness to be stabilized in God. A stable person or a soul cannot be possessed by his senses and vices as he sees himself to be equal in happiness and sorrow, and he becomes worthy to attain the element of nectar. The nectar that is being served to him, the wisdom that is being served to him for eternity. So, when he says you need to tolerate happiness and sorrow, where do we get our happiness and sorrow from? From objects, from instruments. Like we have the possessions, whatever possessions we have, whatever we have accumulated in our life, all the possessions, it gives us happiness, but at times when it breaks or it goes away or we have lost it, we experience sorrow also. But still we are able to stabilize ourselves. Anyway, if it is broken, we can get it new. Get the new one, we can get it repaired, we can handle it. So we are able to maintain a balance between happiness and sorrow from instruments, from the possessions. Cold and heat, maintaining a balance between cold and heat. Weather, when there is a heat wave, we turn on the ACs, maybe we turn on the fans. If the lights have gone, still we are able to fan with our hand and we try to comfort ourselves. We maintain a balance. If it is too cold, we put on our cardigans and we put on something to warm us. May turn the heater on. But if the heater is not working, we try to comfort ourselves with all the things that we have, right? We maintain a balance there. We don't get angry. Oh, what is happening? Why is this weather changing like this? No, we don't react. So when possessions are lost or are broken up, we try to comfort ourselves by bringing something new. If we don't get that, something in replacement. If the weather is not good, we still do not react, but we adjust ourselves. But when there is praise and defamation, and that which we get from human beings. So maintaining a balance or tolerance or accepting that which we get from nature, that which we get from possessions, that which we get from human beings, because these are three things are connected with one individual life: possessions, nature, outside nature, weather, and human beings, the relationship. But in the relationship, when there is praise, we are so happy. But when there is defamation, what happens? We react so much. We react. We lose our inner stability. We lose our inner balance. And we completely become the embodiment of that defamation. Why he said this? Why we react so much? So God is trying to explain to Arjuna that it depends on the capacity of each one to tolerate happiness and sorrow, cold, heat, praise and defamation. Right? The vices and in the awareness and the attitude make one vicious in such a way, that water would take its form when placed in a mold. If I take water in a glass, it will take the form of a glass. If I put it in a jug, if I put it in a pan, it will take the form of the pan. It does not have its own form. Similarly, God is trying to experience that our attitudes, my awareness does not have its own form. But whichever mold I take of negative or positive, whichever I take the mold, if I take a positive mold, my attitudes, my awareness takes the shape of that positive. But if I try to react, if I become angry, if I become vicious, it would take that mold and my attitudes turn negative. My awareness becomes negative. Because this is a conflict between the field and the fieldman, and in which the devilish traits have to be completely demolished. I have to be victorious upon my weaknesses and allow the consciousness to be stabilized in God. Because if I take that negative mold, it is never going to concentrate on God. And we shall be uneasy with our own self. We shall be constantly fluctuating inside. So a stable person cannot be possessed by his senses and vices, as he sees himself to be equal in happiness and sorrow. We need to maintain that equilibrium. We need to maintain that balance, especially when we are confused. And he becomes worthy to attain the element of nectar. Means to take that wisdom, absorb that wisdom, accept that wisdom, and become the embodiment of it. Right? So I think the time is up. So I won't be able to complete the second chapter, which is so beautiful, the essence of whole Bhagavad-Gita. But anyway, relating from the background to the first 3-4 slides in what we have seen, the second chapter, and definitely it has a lot of wisdom for us to be victorious in this present time, whenever there is a lot of confusion in our lives, and to maintain a balance in relationship as well. So this second chapter especially tells us what type of actions we have to perform amidst that conflict times, how we need to maintain the relationship with everyone, how we need to tolerate and accept, and at the same time to perform positive actions also. So whenever I get a chance to do sometimes forward, we can go ahead with all the other beautiful wisdom points that God has given.